Nation. We're back.
Welcome back, Megan.
Good to be back. Excited.
I know. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan.
And we are
Fire the Cannon.
Boom. We actually have a boom.
Love how professional we are. Love how professional we absolutely are with all of this.
Well, we added that fancy new intro, which I'm sure everybody noticed. The fancy new intro. So we're kind of like figuring out how to play it, how to jump in after it, because it was kind of awkward with just boom, our faces. So we have this fancy new little intro now.
What, you don't want to just see my face suddenly?
Well, we'll ease them into seeing
grill?
your face. So we have the fancy new little intro, and then it comes to us, and I'm like, oh yeah, we have to play boom. But anyway, all right, we're back.
I love it. I love it. Well, we've got a lot to talk about this show.
So much.
We're going to recap the UTSA at Texas. Pretty great win for UT there. Maybe some news, some ranking changes. We'll discuss that a little
Texas
bit.
Back. I mean, can you be more back than number one in the country?
I'm just saying.
Can you be more back?
I'm just saying. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll also get into some injury updates. We'll talk about QB1, QB2. Is there a controversy? And of course, we'll recap the game, looking through that. Talk a little bit of college football, some news going on, and then some fun stories that we want to just dive into.
Yes. And we do have NFL teams and things happened with them. So
things did happen.
Yeah. So what we loved about the game, offense, defense for the Texas team. So much to talk about. Okay. So first, let's catch up with what we have going on this week. Feliz 16. It is the 16th of September, which is the real Mexican Independence Day, not Cinco de Mayo.
Right.
So I am sporting my Mexico jersey. I like to rock appropriate for the date. I'm wearing one of my favorite Mexico jerseys. And I think this is like maybe 2 years ago, the team or whatever. It's my favorite one.
It's solid.
So it's pretty awesome with the Mayan art and stuff. It's pretty awesome. It's my favorite jersey.
My favorite thing about y'all's house is every time I come over here, so y'all have the flag up front, right? And every time I come over here, there is a different flag flying.
The flag always has to be with what's happening.
Right. Yes. And it always has meaning. So I feel like I go over and I'm like, ooh,
what's today?
New flag. What's today? Let's talk about it. Like,
and today's flag is
the Mexico
flag is in our house today. Yes.
Yeah. So it always keeps me, thank you for always keeping me up to date. My calendar, garbage. Rocky's flag.
Yeah. Well, it's Richard because he has 400 flags. And it could be like, oh, today's the king of Eswatini's birthday. And he'll go and put out the flag for Swazi, which was Swaziland. Now it's Eswatini. Yeah. Or he'll put out whatever rando flag. And he looks ahead at the calendar. He's like, oh, it's going to be National Cupcake Day in 2 weeks. I should order a cupcake flag. And he will, and he puts one out. So
that's your military husband, though, right?
I think the time for that.
I feel like that's that strong military vibes.
There must be a flag to commemorate the event.
Every single thing.
Yes.
No, I love it. I love it. Well, I actually, in my brief time that I had free, was able to take Nadia. I call her my niece. Not my niece, but definitely my niece, your daughter, of course, to Beetlejuice, and a friend of hers, Ella. Great kid, really fun. We had a great time. Tim Burton isn't necessarily your jams.
Not at all.
That's where I pick up in the auntie department.
Yeah, you do you. Y'all have a
Halloween
blast going
and the Tim Burton stuff. Yeah, so went to see Beetlejuice with our friend Rick and his wife Christine, and saw it on IMAX, and it was awesome. Like, I have to say, I loved every minute of it. I adore Tim Burton, so it was very cool. Like, they kept with kind of the Tim Burton feel. They didn't go overly special effects with it. It was still practical effects and some of the claymation that you saw there. So I loved it, man. So if you are a Beetlejuice fan or you're a Tim Burton fan, check out Beetlejuice. It'll give you strong vibes from back in the day. Have I told you my story about Beetlejuice? So all right. So every Friday when I was a kid growing up, it was our family tradition that we would order pizza from Mr. Gaddy's. And then we would
459-2222.
You still got it.
Did you call that number?
We did call that number. And we would have to go pick it up. But the Mr. Gaddy's was right next door to Blockbuster Video.
Of course it was.
So we would go to Blockbuster. My parents would rent a movie. I would rent a movie.
Every family in America, Friday night.
That's what you did.
We picked up Little Caesars pizza because we love Little Caesars.
That's
and
fair.
it was back when it came in that long, massive tray of 2 pizzas on a big cardboard. And then we would go to Blockbuster.
Yeah.
But you had to get there early for all the movies were going.
Exactly. So we'd get there early. My parents would get a movie. I would get a movie. And then we'd get a family movie. We'd make a my dad was very democratic about things. We would vote on the movie that I listen.
Oh, we didn't get a vote.
Oh yeah, it was crazy. So, but my movie, I got to pick all by myself.
Nice.
And for like a solid 6 months, every Friday, the movie that I got, Beetlejuice.
You should have just kept it and paid the late fees.
You know,
why don't you just buy the movie? It was like $20.
At that point,
you're paying $4 a night.
but that
every
logic
week.
did not sink in
You should have
with a child. You know, like for me,
Mhm.
it was just like, no, I want that movie. And every week, my parents were like, you've seen it so many times. Don't you want something else? Absolutely not. I want Beetlejuice. So yeah, for like
I think
6 months.
I saw Beetlejuice once,
Yeah.
like on VHS 25, 30 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
Never saw it again.
It's not your thing. That's
It
okay.
is not for me at all. But I do have a funny Blockbuster story. So I have an uncle
Yeah.
who has been in and out of the jails.
The system.
The
system. All right.
The system's trying to hold him down. No, I'm just kidding. He's a criminal. But so when this was like 1986, 85, 87, 86, 85, whatever,
Sure.
around mid 80s or whatever. It was 1980 something.
Yeah.
And my uncle came to our house one weekend and he had said, we want to get some movies. So he went to Blockbuster. And now I can say this now that Blockbuster's closed. He went to Blockbuster.
one
And
left.
this was back when we used to rent machines, when you had to rent a VCR. He rented a VCR and he rented 2 movies, Back to School, Rodney Dangerfield, and E.T.
Okay.
And those were the movies he rented. So we brought them home and loved, of course, both. We'd already seen E.T. in the movies, but loved them. And then he left like on Monday. We had for the weekend, right? So we're like, oh, we got to get the VCR and whatever back to
watch it
Blockbuster
as many times as you can and then return
and he's like, oh no, you don't have to turn it back because whatever fake ID he used to rent them, they're now ours.
Blockbuster
So
didn't
for
know.
the next like 15 years,
You had the return to Blockbuster video.
We had one of those VCRs that came in a handle.
Listen, that's convenient. That's convenient. That's all I'm saying.
I'm like, as a kid, I just like, oh, Uncle got it, and he told us that you don't take it back. I use this ID to rent that. So whoever's name that was, they have bad credit at Blockbuster
Because he destroyed somebody's life over a Blockbuster video VCR.
You know, so I have watched Back to School 95,000 times.
Listen,
and E.T. 95,000 times because that's all we had. Those were the 2 movies we had for 10 years.
You do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do. I love it. I love it. Well, speaking of going back 10 years, let's talk about Texas and how they're looking. We know that as Longhorn fans, we've suffered
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. We've suffered through maybe a little PTSD. We've had some pain. Arguably Texas's worst decade. Can we say it's finally come to an end? The worst decade in Texas football. Do you feel like it's official? Are we comfortable saying?
Absolutely.
I love it.
You can get. I mean, we were proud and ready to declare it, and we did declare it when
After
Texas
Bama.
went into Bama and they beat them, and people laughed at us, and we said, no, we are back. You don't go into Bama and have some fluke game. You don't.
Right.
And you can tell the way they beat Bama on the road. It wasn't a fluke. It was physical. It was
Nick
on
Saban Bama.
Nick Saban Bama.
Mm-hmm.
It was physical. It was on the lines of scrimmage. It was with an elite quarterback. It was with all the skill talent.
Right.
It was a complete game on the road.
Right.
That thing is not a fluke, right? You can tell it wasn't, a bunch of turnovers or, a bunch of weird things. It was a beat down in their house.
Yeah.
You and I said that night after the game, and people were like, hey, LOL, Texas thinks they're back. Yes, we knew it.
Yep.
And sure enough, Texas is in the playoffs. Texas gets 12 wins for the, Texas goes 11-1 and gets to the play and wins the championship, conference championship. They're in the playoffs. They're a play away from being in the national championship. That's pretty back.
Yeah.
But then this year, going into defending champions, beating them down in their house, and now the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah. Look, and we'll definitely talk about that more. We'll talk about rankings. But Texas put on an absolute performance at DKR. Of course, we know that Quinn Ewers has that abdomen strain, so we'll keep an eye on that. We'll talk about that a little bit here in the next few minutes. But with Quinn Ewers, with Arch Manning, Texas looks solid. I mean, there was no questioning. And we knew this UTSA team, all hats off to Coach Traylor. We love him. We support him. Of course, we'll root for the Roadrunners.
Oh, yeah.
Going on. That's one thing that I do appreciate. You know how when we were in Michigan, we had to teach them how to do the horns down properly. We saw a lot of this. Well, that is actually the Roadrunner sign, like the aloha, but you face it forward. So
yeah,
I guess Michigan was just saying Roadrunners down. I don't know.
They were planning ahead for our next opponent.
Right. But Coach Traylor has had some really great teams at UTSA. A little bit of a rebuilding the year this year.
Very much.
So expectations were, I think the expectation was Texas would come in and steamroll.
The spread was 35, and Texas blew that away.
Right. And so what I'm excited to see, let's talk about this a little bit. So, okay, we know that Texas won 56-7. I want to apologize to everybody. I called this game at 59-10. I was off by quite a bit, so forgive me for that.
What did I have?
You had 49 to 6.
I think I said they would get 6 or 9 field goals.
Yeah.
6 or 9 points in field goals.
Yeah. So Texas comes in, absolutely clears the spread, does well. Let's talk about this a little bit, Rocky. Let's dive into some numbers here. What'd you see at UTSA that gave you some encouragement? We're talking about Texas being back.
Well, let's do a big umbrella look at first, and then we'll dive into offense, defense, etc.
Yeah.
So overall, we heard Sark's press conference today, and he said 77 different players played. We said last week what we wanted to see is because there was so much movement around the receiving, so many receivers were able to catch the ball and be involved the first week, and then you go to Michigan and it went down to two or three receivers, and then this week we're back to multiple receivers. Right. 6 different players had a touchdown. 28 different players had recorded some kind of tackle or defensive play statistics. So that's huge. This is what we wanted to see, an opportunity for the young players and just the teams 3, 4, 5 in the depth chart getting reps. And we saw them out there early and often. Like there was a lot of depth that got real game reps, which is really huge. And that's what we wanted to see. He talks about this could be a 15-game season going in hopefully January 20th. So you need the depth, you need the skill, you need everyone prepared with real game reps. And what a great opportunity. Texas is fortunate that we have in this little time, and we'll get into Quinn's injury, but if ever there was a time for lots of people to get lots of reps, it's going to be UTSA, ULM, and the first SEC game, Mississippi State, which looks terrible which you don't take anyone lightly, but the odds don't look good for them. But
relatively speaking.
They are at the bottom of the SEC.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. We talked about this earlier in the season. We knew we were going to see a lot of players. That was the goal. I mean, Sark was very clear about it. Wanted to see a lot of players, get a lot of reps, and get that game time experience. And I think we really saw that. You're absolutely right. With Michigan, pulled it back in a little bit. You go with the guys that are going to get you yards. You go with the guys that are going to get you your plays. This was an opportunity against a slightly lesser opponent. Let's just put that out there. And that a lot of guys got to touch the ball. So we saw, of course, Quinn Ewers start. His stats were phenomenal. And then he went down with that injury. Again, it looks like an abdomen strain. Good news, Texas fans. It's not as serious as it was first thought to be. But Arch comes in, took a second to kind of catch up. Like there's a few little miscues here and there, but once Arch got rolling, Arch was rolling. Accountable for 5 touchdowns, 4 in the air, 1 running. And then we even got to see Trey Owens a little bit too. So I thought that was good. Just getting all those players quite a bit of touch. Again, we'll dive into the numbers a little bit more here in a bit. Let me ask you this. Was there a player that stood out to you just overall? Could be offense, defense in this game against UTSA. Was there a player that stood out there like, dang, that's a performance like that looked really good? And you're
Colin Simmons.
All right.
Colin Simmons. So we're so fortunate, and it's kind of, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing right now that the leading statistical players are true freshmen.
Yeah. Ryan
Wingo, Colin Simmons, Jarrett Gibson. They are leading receivers, tacklers, runners with the ball. So it's pretty crazy. And I know it's because they're getting lots of game time, especially with like Jaden Blue resting. So, you have Quintravian Wisner and Jarrett Gibson getting more carries. And then Trey went out with, tweaked a little bit. So then you had Jarrett Gibson and even going into the 4th and 5th running backs there. Yeah. But to see Wingo just at this level jump right in and fit like nothing. It's so exciting about the future, but it's also crazy that he jumps in a wide receiver. Wingo jumps in a wide receiver room with Cook, Bolden, Golden, Bond, like all these really experienced elite running receivers, and he fits right in and he holds his own. That's really exciting. But Colin Simmons, for him to just be already, they're using him in such a versatile way, and he's so powerful and quick and just so natural off the edge. He's exciting, and he's getting national attention. And freshman All-American, no doubt. Like his performance in the just first 3 weeks, freshman All-American.
I love that. I love it. Look, and I think that's something that really speaks to what Coach Sarkisian and his team is building at Texas, right? We talk about culture all the time. We talk about Texas is finally getting the depth. The recruiting is finally back. And what a recruiting tool to be able to say, yeah, you might be a freshman, but guess what? You're going to, if you are performing and you're putting the work in, you're going to have the opportunity to play day one.
Yep.
Look at all this production. And the proof is in the pudding. This isn't just a talking it. Texas is walking that walk as well.
Right.
Of course, we know that Sark's going to play the players that give us the best chance to win. And right now, a lot of freshmen have stepped up. I want to really emphasize again how Texas's schedule is playing out to our favor. No question, right? In years past, I mean, these games are scheduled years and years and years ahead of time as far as the major marquee. So Michigan has been on the calendar for, I want to say, almost 10 years. I mean,
it was like 10 years.
Yeah, this has been a big deal. You can't control what other teams are doing. It worked out nicely that Michigan had just won a national championship and then perhaps lost quite a bit of.
Did not reload when other teams do reload.
Lost their coach, lost their coaching staff, a majority of it. And then, perhaps in a rebuild versus reload. But I really like what Texas did at the beginning of the season for the first year in the SEC. You know, we've talked about it. We fussed about it. Some other teams like to play the SEC schedule early, and then they have a cupcake in November. Yeah. Right now, maybe this is something in 2 years we're going to go, shit, we should be scheduling cupcakes in November.
CDC
but
said he will not schedule FCS or whatever.
Oh, never FCS. Yeah. But I'm just saying maybe UTSA gets scheduled in November versus now. But I don't see Texas doing that. I think this is playing out really nicely for the team, right? We've had, and some of this is luck, some of this is planning, but just the fact that we've had teams that are easing us into this, our first year in the SEC, easing us into the SEC schedule. I like how this is playing out for Texas. So again, we start with Colorado State. Then, of course, Michigan comes after that. Then we've got UTSA, which is not quite as strong as they have been in years past. Now we play ULM, which Texas has a pretty high chance of winning that.
Even though they're undefeated.
Right. And then to start the SEC schedule, we're going to dip our little toe in that too, right? We're going to ease into that with Mississippi State.
Yeah,
so,
it's not Texas's fault. Everyone else isn't holding up their
right,
end.
Right. Look, as much as people want to bitch and moan about it, at the end of the day, Texas can control what Texas can control. We can't control what other teams are doing or how good they are or how they reload or how they're coaching. But I will say, I will be the first Texas fan to say this. I like how this schedule is working out for us. It is favorable for Texas. No question.
Is favorable.
Yeah.
Because Texas is good. It would not be favorable if Texas were stinking it up right now. It's all relative. It's only because that's a great point. Good. Yeah. So you mentioned how good it looks when all the freshmen are playing and the young guys get to play. So of the 22 freshmen in this class, 16. Only 8 have not played. So 14 have played.
Yeah.
So Colin Simmons, Brandon Baker, Kobe Black, Ryan Wingo, Xavier Philsmith, Jared Gibson, Wardell Mack, Jordan Washington, Livingstone, Jordan Johnson Rebel, love his mom on Twitter.
Yes.
Ty Anthony Smith has played every game. Alex January, Michael Kern, of course, the punter, has played every game. So already all these freshmen have gotten real game time, and most of those have played in almost all 3 games.
Yeah.
So that tells a lot to the young recruits looking, because that stadium was packed on Saturday night, and the recruiting section.
Listen, shout out to the fans.
Full.
Shout out to the students. Shout out to the fans. Again, we knew this was it, even though it was a night game, it was still hot as hell in Texas. It is unseasonably hot for this time in September. And the fans showed up and showed out
and stayed the whole time.
It was really great to see. So shout out if you were there sweating it out with all of us. We appreciate you. The team sees it. They love it. So keep that shit up, Texas. This is great. It's a good time to be a Longhorn, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's fun. So all right, let's talk about it. Good time to be a Longhorn. We know that the new rankings came out. Texas has now leaped Georgia to become the number 1 rated team in the nation. Rocky, how you feeling?
I mean, this is a conversation we have to have, right?
Right.
As soon as you say that, because of the PTSD and because we've been burned and because of all the things, a lot of Texas fans are like, no, rat poison, no, this and that, no, don't let them say that. I think it's different now.
Yeah.
I think it's different because this is a time where the foundation is so strong and the culture is so strong. Yeah. The fans, we can be silly and laugh and talk and look 10 games ahead.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we're talking and laughing about. The team isn't doing it.
Right.
The team is focused, and that's what matters. We heard Sark today in his press conference say they are working on. They're focused on their own thing. They're not talking about what the media is saying. It doesn't matter because with this new playoff, before it mattered because only a couple could get in the national championship game.
It was more weighted.
Yeah, it was more
point.
weighted.
Right.
If you were 1 or 2, it mattered.
Right.
Now it's not as tight because
Right.
there's a 12-team playoff.
Right.
It's harder than ever to win a championship now because you got to get to a whole 12-team playoff.
That's
but now you being ranked 1 or 2 or 8, it's not the end of the world, right? But it is respect, and it does say that the country and the media, the voters, the coaches, all the people that weigh into this this poll, that several polls are out.
Yeah, AP and coaches.
Yeah, and ESPN, FPI, they all have Texas as the number 1 team.
Yeah,
that says a lot.
Yeah, no,
what do you think?
I agree. Look, this is something that we can say, oh, Texas is number 1. That's great. And yeah, of course, fans should be excited about that. Fans should think this is a great time. And it is. We should relish that. But let's also keep in mind, it's week 4.
Yeah.
And rankings, much like preseason rankings, week 4 rankings don't mean shit unless you follow through with it. Right.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think this is something that Texas fans, look, y'all, we can release some of that trauma that we've experienced over the past decade. We can kind of put that away and say, look, the signs are all there that Texas is back. The signs are all there that we are a different team than we have been in years past. So Texas being ranked number 1 is a good sign of that, right? It's a good indicator, but it's not the end all be all.
No one's won anything yet
because it's week 4.
It's like bragging about recruiting in August.
Right. Exactly.
You
can be proud of it.
Yeah.
You can be proud of it. But it ain't the end.
But you haven't won anything yet.
It ain't the end all be all.
And I love Michael Tapp. I stand.
You're a Mookie stan.
I'm a Mookie stan. His comments today about they're not legendary yet. They want to be legendary.
Yeah.
They want the team of 2024 to be legendary. And being ranked number 1 in week 3 is not legendary, right? They haven't done anything yet. And I love that perspective because their eyes are on a big prize. And this is not going to get them there. When you're ranking in week 3 doesn't award you a national championship, and they know that.
Right.
And even Sark said that they're being coached hard and they love it. Even this game with UTSA this week, it looked really good at moments. And then there was some mess. There was some things, a lot to clean up that won't fly against a good team like a Georgia or a rivalry like OU. Those things aren't going to fly. So it's really good that they have that. They're taking in the hard coaching. Sark said that they're, really responsive to the tough coaching, and the coaches are, really giving it to them now. It helps when you can be coached hard after a win.
Absolutely.
Because that tells you the mindset is, yes, we won. And even if they won big, they can look at the film and be like, oh, but if I had blocked here downfield, you could have gone for another 10 yards. Or if I had done this here, you could have, or this read or this tackle. Like, there was some missed coverage at big blown touchdown run against UTSA that they gave up. And there was a few more leaky runs from the linebackers again. So there's things that they can clean up, but it's really nice when you're the number 1 team in the country and you have so much depth.
Yeah.
That you can do those things.
Yeah. I think you said it really nicely. It's really nice when you can be nitpicky coming off a big win.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we are in that stage with this team where the coaches, again, everything that Sark has done has been with intent, with purpose, and by design.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And of course, that 5-7 season is not what we wanted, but there were a lot of factors going into that, kind of clearing out the system, figuring out who you have, working on the process of getting your guys in, working on teaching them how to win again, how to be successful again, how to change that mentality again. And I think, again, as we've talked about on the show before, we're seeing that come to fruition now, right? We're now seeing where, all right, we don't have to worry. Like the fundamentals are the fundamentals. They're coming to our guys. They understand it. Now it's finesse. Now it's nitpicking. Now it's, like you said, you can't have leaky coverage. You can't let those leaky runs get through when you're going up against, I mean, I'm even going to say OU. Look, OU's got their own set of drama,
it's a rivalry game. Take them seriously.
Right, right. And going into the SEC where the schedule only gets harder and harder and harder as we go on through this year, you've really got to start cleaning up those little things. And we mentioned this earlier, you know, in regards to Michigan, in regards to national championships. There's so much that goes into being a national championship contender and a national championship winner, right? And it's the little things that count. So yes, you have to have the staff. Yes, you have to have the planning. Yes, you have to have the culture. You have to have the players. You have to have the skill. You've got to have a bit of luck. But it's the little things that are going to push you over from being a really good team to a national championship team. And I love watching this staff and these players talk about that openly and talk about focusing on the little things. And we talked about Colin Simmons. He's having a great year so far. And he was dogging himself on Twitter earlier.
Yeah.
You know, he said, I got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
You know, a lot to clean
Humble.
up. Yeah. And you love to see that, because to me, that is such a different mindset than what we saw even 5 years ago from some players. Right. So I'm very encouraged by what we're seeing coming out. They're saying all the right things. So far, they're doing a lot of the right things. I think this is a good moment.
Let's say, so, you know, a lot of the fans are really excited. Some are nervous. Some are just heads this big because they've rode the hard times, right? So let's take two parts of that. First, Sark says in his press conference today, he said, I was anticipating this is where we were going to be. We know that he had a plan and it started rough. 5-7 is rough, but he had a plan and a vision and a culture that he was establishing. And to him, he's like, well, I anticipated being number one in the country, the best in the country, but he didn't say it in an arrogant way. He said it as a matter of fact. This was part of the plan, right? So when we think about that, do you think that, okay, I loved your comments that you had on Twitter about, there have been some of us who've been riding some rough days, because our buddy Doc Allen said, if you weren't with the Charlie Strong days, then you don't appreciate this as much, right? And so what do you think? Like, I know even Pete fans who just like maybe jumped in the last few years or 8 years or 10 years, whatever, of Texas. And I feel bad for them because they got in when it was really rough. Yeah. So if you started riding with Texas in the last 10 years, hook them to you, because dang. But you know, like, what do you think about that? Like, everyone has their own story of what, you know, we've all been just
what was the lowest of the low.
Yeah, like just teased, and like Texas has been the butt of jokes. And then for a minute we won the Sugar Bowl against Georgia, who was supposed to be in the championship game, but they didn't. And we were like, Texas is back. I mean, we played in our intro because it's iconic now with Texas. What do you think about that? Like, riding this pain, do you feel it more that we're number one in the country?
Yeah, look, I again, I'm not going to ride it on the number one in the country, but what I will say is, and I want to be clear, I think the t-shirt fan argument is stupid. If you want to rock with the team, rock with the team. We're all a family here. Texas supports Texas. You love to see it. You love to see the positivity. Everybody has their own reasons for being able to or not being able to go to Texas. That doesn't bother me. If you're here and you're a diehard fan, hell yeah, welcome, join us, right? But I will say, I think it having perspective, right? Having the perspective of my lowest of the low as a Longhorn was being in Lawrence, Kansas, when Texas lost in overtime to a really, really bad Kansas team. And, you know, that was, to me, that was when I knew that Charlie Strong was done at Texas. Took a couple more games.
It was leading up to that, but that was like,
that
was the last
That
straw.
was it. And I mean, it took a couple more games for it to actually happen. But in that moment, you know, it was cold.
Walking.
It was, I mean, really, it was cold. Texas just played lackluster. The energy wasn't there. I mean, it felt like the team itself had given up. Right. And if you haven't experienced the pain of a Kansas fan getting in your face, losing to Kansas at Kansas, that's some deep, it was rough. It was rough.
Oh, I've had Kansas fans.
You know, but so for me, yeah, you can be a Texas fan no matter what. If you're just joining us, welcome. But there's something to be said for the perspective, right? When you have to go through the lowest of the low. Listen, I was at DKR for the UCLA shellacking, the 66-3.
Yeah.
I sang the Eyes of Texas as a child at the end of that game, miserable. 66-3. I've seen some highs, I've seen some lows as a Longhorn, but if you haven't been through those really, really lows, it's harder. Or you don't have as much appreciation. I think everybody loves that we're on the up and up, and Texas is back, right? But if you haven't suffered through that pain,
I don't know.
I think you appreciate it a little bit more.
In the last
yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying
5-7 is even pretty rough. Not making bowl games is rough.
But to me,
losing to Kansas even just a few years ago was rough.
I get that
because they hadn't won a Big 12 game in forever. Probably since the last time they beat us.
I get that, but again, there were signs of that Kansas team being a lot better. Then the next year, that team was actually a decent Kansas team.
That year they were awful.
They weren't awful. They were on the cusp. But again, but what I'll say is, yeah, you're right. Like if you were sitting in the 5-7, that's not, but there were still signs that things were improving, right?
Yeah.
And to me, yeah, if you sat through the 5-7, hell yeah, man. Like you can appreciate it a little more than somebody that just joined this year. But in that same light, somebody who's been here 10 years, and had been through the UCLA or been through the, the ass whooping at Cal, the butt whooping at Notre Dame.
I was at both of those.
But that's what I'm saying. Like you go through that, and the more pain you accumulate, the higher the highs feel. That's all I'm saying. It's relative. It's just all relative.
Yeah, I can see that. So Jake Majors, offensive line, Jake Majors, we know he's been here, 20 years? He said, it does mean a good bit to me because I've been 5-7. I've gone through those hardships. At the end of the day, it's only week 4. It doesn't really matter until January 20th. I want to be number 1 then.
Yeah, I love it.
Love the perspective.
I love that mentality.
They know, like, they've been through the rough times. They can appreciate what it means to be valued as the best team, but they also know it doesn't mean anything. They want to be number 1 on January 20th.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll take it now, but they know it doesn't mean anything.
They
know it doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Yeah. I love that quote from them. And it seems like that was probably the mindset of most of the guys on the team, that they know it doesn't mean, it's cool and it helps recruiting, and the recruits are all talking about it, and it's fun for us to talk about it, but they know, which is all that matters, is they know it doesn't mean squat.
Right. No, I love it. So, all right, let's talk about, we've talked about a lot of players getting playing time. We've talked about successes. We'll dive into the offense a little bit more, but I do want to talk about Quinn's injury.
We have to talk about the Quinn Arch story.
Right.
Yeah.
So, as we know, Quinn went down again. I think it was on a play that we scored or had a big game.
It was the hurdle, the Gunnar Helm hurdle.
Yeah.
And so I need to go watch this because I've heard a few people say now that a play or two before that, he was hit
in the ribs. Yeah.
Not a clean hit. It was like a late punch or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to go look and see what is that happening, that maybe the UTSA got a little something into his side.
Yeah.
That a play or two later, he drops. He does the throw to Gunnar Helm, which the hurdle play.
Yeah.
And then he's like, something with my side, and they do a handoff. And by then he's like, no, he's down.
No, he was down the whole time. Yeah, for sure. So what does this mean for Texas? Of course, people are going to want to spin up a controversy. People are going to say, because Arch Manning did come in and he performed well.
He broke records.
But what does this mean for Texas with that, with Quinn being out at this point in the season? Is this something that you have a lot of concern about? Like, how are you feeling?
Okay, so we'll hear from Sark in a second because we have that clip queued up about the Arch being prepared and Quinn being prepared. So we've talked about this. So Quinn has had, we're guessing maybe 1,000 reps, right? 50, 60 reps a game for 2 years, 20 games, more than 20 games. So he's seen it all on the field. And that experience, as talented as Arch is and as superhuman as he looked on Saturday night, and as just a stellar athlete, he also doesn't have all those reps under his belt yet. And you just can't make up for that yet.
You can't replace experience.
So we've seen Quinn he's been a machine this season already at home and then at Michigan in the first, few series of that Texas game, the UTSA game on Saturday. Quinn has been a machine. He has elite quarterback ratings. He skyrocketed to the top of the Heisman, watch for his performances so far. So you can't take that away yet. So we know, and I'm sure Sark knows, that as talented as Arch is, Quinn is the one that's going to lead you to a national championship if that happens for Texas. It's going to take Quinn's experience, Quinn's knowledge, Quinn's skill. Arch may end up being way more talented and have a bigger later in 2 years. Arch may win a Heisman also.
Yeah, I love it.
But right now, Quinn is the man. And as soon as Quinn is healthy, Quinn's the man.
Yeah, I mean, looking this, Quinn Ewers he was 14 of 16. He had an 87.5% completion rating. Again, for 185 yards, he was averaging 11.6 yards per attempt. 2 touchdowns.
Per attempt.
2 touchdowns, 1 interception. That one interception did get away from him a little bit.
Yeah, they're saying maybe there's something with his thumb, or like he might have a thumb thing.
But again, 213.4. I mean, that's his
in what, a quarter and a half.
Right,
did he go out?
That's his QBR. So it's not like Quinn was having a poor performance and then got hurt.
Amazing.
He was killing it. And then, of course, Arch comes in 9 of 12 for 75% completion rating, 223 yards. This one's crazy to me. 18.6 yards per attempt. I mean, that's just bonkers. 4 touchdowns. He was sacked once where Quinn was not. And then, of course, he accounted for a rushing touchdown as well.
I have the rushing touchdown. You want to see it?
Yeah, let's bring it.
So this video I took of the rushing touchdown, is it viral if it gets 2 million views?
Yeah, I think that's pretty viral.
It went viral. So this is the video I took of when What a move.
Now, the thing I want to point out.
That was amazing.
The thing I really. Look, this is Arch outrunning a 5-star. So.
Yeah, Denver Harris.
Yeah,
whatever,
who had the angle. Arch Manning is outright. Now, did you ever think you'd say that about a Manning quarterback? Being fast?
An Arch Manning one.
Right. I mean, the kid's got elite speed. I mean, he's hauling ass. He's getting through. Like, no question. It's really impressive to me. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be excited about with Arch Manning. Obviously, we're in good hands. And again, this is an embarrassment of riches for Texas. We saw Trey Owen actually get in a little bit too, which was nice for him to get some action when we knew the game was nice and put away. He was 2 of 4 for 50% completion, 19 yards, 4.8 per attempt.
And he even had a couple really nice scramble when there was miscommunication or something.
Yeah. So again, Texas is in a good space. We never want to see our quarterback hurt. We never want to see anybody hurt. But given where we're at in the season, like you mentioned earlier, if it has to happen, this is the time for it to happen. And this is the kind of injury like where he can recover. I guess we know he's week by week.
It just stinks that this is a great time to be padding those stats for the Heisman.
It is.
He could be dropping 400 yards a game against UTSA, ULM, Mississippi State. And that's what we're so fortunate we have Arch who can come in and not miss a beat. I mean, there is change of playbook because we saw that. But to see just what an opportunity that Quinn was it was there. So I know he's probably really bummed that, of course, he wants the team first and he would rather take, the team wins and the team accomplishments over himself. But also,
look,
I feel bad that he's not padding stats for the Heisman.
I feel like this is going to be a Vince Young kind of thing, right? Vince would rather have the national championship than the Heisman.
Yeah.
And whether Quinn ends up with one or not, if we get a natty, all is right.
I'm sure most players would take a national championship over Heisman, but also I want him to have both.
Yeah.
All right. So let's listen to Sark. So Sark was asked at the press conference today about, Quinn and Arch and the preparation and Arch coming in. And is there an issue that Arch gets so much media when Quinn is QB1? And this was a great answer by Sark.
I don't do anything. Arch is just another guy on our team. And the reason I'm able to do that is because that's who Arch is every day. Arch he's a selfless teammate. He cares about the guys on the team. He cares about Quinn. They've got a great relationship. He works his tail off. He wants to play good football for them because he knows how hard everybody's working. So I literally don't address it with him. I don't address it with the team. He's just part of the team, and I think that's been the approach. If you even go back to the recruiting process, it was never about the name. It was about the player and the ability and the parents and so on and so forth. And so that's made it actually pretty easy that we don't have to address it. And I think from Quinn's perspective, I think Quinn, he just wants to keep playing. I mean, nobody wants to have to come out of a game because you get injured. But I think if you ask Quinn today, he's fired up for Arch because he knows how hard Arch has been working. I mean, I go back to this all the time. You all were there for that first spring game. He didn't play very good. And so the growth that he's shown and the ability to work at his craft, there's a real level of appreciation, I think, from Quinn to Arch, but also Arch to Quinn, because I know Arch has been there supporting Quinn through his journey as well. So that's a sign of a great room and a sign of a good team.
Sign of a great room and sign of a good team. They're supporting each other. They're both growing together. Quinn understands that it's while he's, Sark talked about that. He's going to be prepared. He's going to be dialed in. He's going to, even when he's not when he's recovering, using this time to recover, because we've seen he's had the last 2 years had to spend time recovering from injuries. He uses that time to prepare as if he were a starter. So he will be dialed in and ready to go when he comes back. And we saw that the first year when he came back to the OU game after having, resting for injuries. Boom, dialed in 49-0.
Yeah.
So it's, what do you think about that? How he's going to come back? Are you confident that he's going to come back ready to go? Because he might miss. Well, he will. He'll probably miss this weekend. They have him questionable, but we know they've said that he'll probably rest this week.
Mm-hmm.
It's ULM. Texas is favored by 45. We'll pick those games on Thursday. And then next week, Mississippi State, Texas, big favorites, bye week. Are you worried that if he uses all that time to recover, that he's going to come back rusty, or he's going to come in dialed in like that 49-0?
Yeah, I will say I have a little trepidation. If he's out for all 3 weeks, you feel a little bit like it's hard to stay sharp. It doesn't matter how much practice, how many reps you're getting in practice. As we talked about earlier, game day experience, game day repetition is just different. It just hits different, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say if we are going on into the bye week where Arch is still sitting out, like I think it's no problem for him.
Quinn?
Oh, sorry. I keep doing that.
That's okay.
Quinn is still sitting out. I feel, again, if Quinn's not playing during ULM, no problem. Let him rest. That's no big deal. Mississippi State, I'm gonna want to see him get some reps. I'm gonna want to see him, because then again, while it's nice to have that rest time going into that grind of OU and then Georgia and then I want to see Quinn get some reps in a real game experience before going into that bye week where he's resting again. So maybe it's a thing where if he's still a little iffy, you let Arch start and see how the game plays out and then let Quinn get some reps, kind of reverse the roles a bit. But I will say I will feel, well, I'm very confident in Quinn's ability and I'm confident in his preparation and his tactics. I would feel better if he had at least some game time. I'd say half a game playing time at least before going into that bye week. How about you? How are you feeling about it?
I agree. Our basic thinking is, you want to stay sharp and all that.
Right.
But then we also saw that he came in with that 49-0 game against Oklahoma and was sharp.
Yeah.
And that was as a freshman.
Yeah. I think that
was his first year.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking if Sark says he's taking mental reps, he's actively involved. Mental reps are still good reps. It's not the same.
Not the same.
It's not the same, but at least he's actively involved in the offense and actively involved in preparation for the games. And they're prepared. He prepares as if he's going to play, even though he knows he can't. I think there's something to be said for that. And he can do what he can do until it's time to come back.
Yeah.
So I want to hear more. Is there really something with that thumb? The throwing hand thumb,
maybe that's the under wraps thing more.
Yeah, that's probably under wraps. I want to hear somebody say anything about that. But also if the abdominal strain, everybody's different. He's young and fit and strong, but also how bad is it? Like there's so many variables to that. So we know we won't see him this weekend.
Yeah.
And then Arch will get first team reps with all the first teamers, and then Trey Owens will get second team reps. That's pretty good for him. So we'll hopefully we see more Trey Owens this week too, because that means Arch blew them out and we're up 40. We covered the 45.
Good to go.
Who knows?
Okay.
So Arch. Okay, it was national media that Arch Manning came into this game, and was insanity, right? He was his
And he was
numbers hit over 300 QBR.
Yeah.
Over 300
Yeah.
QBR in 2.5 quarters, right?
Mhm.
That's crazy. And but Quinn is QB1, right?
Yeah.
There's just no
there's
doubt.
no
There's no doubt.
quarterback
It was against
controversy.
UTSA, right?
There's no quarterback
we have
controversy.
we have to understand it was against UTSA and they weren't prepared for Quinn, but he did do really well. John Bianco, we know John Bianco with the University of Texas. He said 75-yard TD pass and 67-yard TD run versus UTSA. Arch Manning became the first player in UT history to have a 65-plus yard pass and run in the same game. That's crazy. Opta stat says in the last 25 years, only one FBS or NFL QB has a 75-yard TD pass, a 65-yard TD run, and another 50-yard TD pass in a single game. That's Arch Manning.
Look, again, I'm not debating. The future is bright. We're excited for it. Texas fans should be excited. But again, there is no quarterback controversy.
No, that's what we need to get across.
You can't replace reps. You can't replace the experience. You can't replace that game time decision making. Again, Texas fans, it is a great time to be a Longhorn. Be very excited for what the future brings. But also, Quinn Ewers is QB1. And if for Texas to have the best chances of winning a national championship this year, it is with Quinn Ewers as the quarterback.
Yes.
I will stand
no
by
matter
that.
what the Heisman odds are saying now.
Yeah.
Arch Manning's Heisman odds went from 150 to 1 to 16 to 1.
Yeah, it jumped
at halftime of that game.
No doubt. But again,
it's just hype. It's just
again,
hype.
that's where I'm like,
overreaction.
Let's not, because to me,
Overreaction.
we're talking week 4 again, just like the number 1 ranking. We're talking week 4. Look, it's exciting. It's fun to look at, but it's week 4.
It is.
Let's take a deep breath for a minute, for sure.
Right.
So real quickly,
go ahead.
I do want to talk about Jaden Blue.
Yes.
Looks like he is making progress on his injury. We're hoping that he comes back for ULM. By all accounts, it looks like he will be back for ULM.
I'm hoping he just gets a couple reps and then rest.
Yeah.
Like get a little rust off and then rest.
Yeah.
Trey Wisner too. Quintravion, his mom went some called Quintravion. We're down literally to the 4th and 5th running backs right now. And they need to be healthy before SEC play.
Yeah.
Wisner and Blue.
So we'll keep an eye on that as well too. So, all right, let's talk a little bit of defense real quick before we jump into other things.
Amazing.
Yeah, look, Texas D doing some really nice things. Jahdae Barron, let's give him a shout out here with the highest graded SEC DB at 89.6. So we knew we had an eye on Barron before. We thought this was going to be a good year for him. And so far, man, that all the work that he's been putting in, all the hard, all that time in the film room, all the sweat, blood, and tears, it is paying off. It is paying off. Talk about Jahdae a little bit.
So we've seen some NFL scouts, and we'll dive deeper into the NFL later, but some NFL scouts are saying who's going under the radar that's really climbing up boards, Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba.
Yeah.
So to see that Jahdae Barron came back this year, right? He's wearing number 7, Michael Huff's jersey, and all Sark talks about is his versatility. He plays star, nickel, corner, like he's doing it all, right? And we've seen him the last couple of weeks like really hone into those corner skills, and he had a huge play on a 4th down this week against UTSA. He's just all over the field, so physical, so smart, and he was graded the highest DB in the SEC this week.
Yeah. So again, let's focus in on that high IQ. I really love seeing if there's one little thing that I don't think is being talked about enough as far as what Sark is doing developmentally wise, it's that really taking guys that are high skill players and developing that IQ. Yeah. Not that they don't have it to begin with, but he's really building that up. And I think we've seen such a huge mental jump from Jahdae Barron and from a lot of our guys. I mean, Colin Simmons is a young guy, but we're seeing that too. And even Makuba, you brought up earlier, that what a great pickup in the portal from Clemson, but even from his Clemson days to now, you're seeing the plays, seeing the plays ahead of time, being in the right position, knowing where to be, and having that really high IQ, when to stay home, when to attack. I really think that's a thing that we have not been talking about enough as a whole for what this staff is really doing and how they're developing players. So really excited to see that.
Yeah.
We got some smarty pantses on.
We do. And so Jahdae Barron was on the post-game presser with Craig Way. They go into the locker room and they pull the guys and they talk to a bunch of different ones. They were talking to Gunnar Helm and they were talking to Jahdae, and Jahdae was like, he has respect for Gunnar. And when he tells him, hey, I need you to clean this up, or I listen because I respect, and I tell him, and we teach each other. But he also said, they said, well, where are you going now to celebrate or whatever, or something like that? And he goes, I'm going home. I'm going to rest, watch some film. Gunnar, he's going home probably because he has a lady. He's going home. But they're going home to get on the film. And we heard after the last game, after Michigan, after the first win and then the Michigan game, Sark was saying they've taken ownership. Like Jahdae is one of the leaders on the defense. They've taken ownership. Yeah. They're going, like, we're watching film. We're going home to recovery, ice baths, all the things, nutrition, watching film, right back to the next game. And Jahdae was in the locker room like, all right, Michigan's next. All right, UTSA's next. Like, he's the one who's like, turn the page, let's move, let's prepare.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy. I hope coming back this year not only shows his leadership, but his versatility, and he gets stronger and faster, and his knowledge of the game. He's going to improve his NFL draft stock.
Agreed. And I love that you said versatility, because we know at the beginning of the season, that is something that Sark really hammered on. Mm-hmm. Versatility. It was that word that you got tired of hearing in the pressers, right?
And now we love it so much.
And now we love it. Well, because you're seeing it come into play. So really the plan by design is to make sure that these guys, again, have high IQ, mm-hmm. can play at a number of different positions, which only increases their draft stock again.
Oh, I mean,
it's all part of a greater plan, right? So now I do want to bring something up. We talked a little bit about the pain of being a Texas fan over the past decade and how that is subsiding a bit, and we can take joy in where we're at.
Yeah.
This Texas defense has really stepped up. And again, they have only allowed 19 points through 3 games, which is
crazy,
pretty impressive. Our buddy Danny Davis over at Austin American Statesman pointed this out. I want to go through some numbers with you, mm-hmm. and we'll go through the pain together, and then we'll work through it, right? 2015. So these are points allowed by Texas over its first 3 games.
In just 3 games.
During the past decade, okay? So 2015, 111 points allowed. 2016.
111 points in allowed. 3 games.
3 games. 2016, 104 points allowed. In 17, there were 78 points allowed. 18, 69 points allowed. 19, 72 points allowed. 2020, COVID year, 92 points allowed. 2021, 58. 2022, 50. 2023, 44.
Getting better.
2024, 19. So
19. And let's say that includes going to the national championship, defending national champions.
Right. So
wow.
Listen, so this
19 points in 3 games.
Yeah. This 3-game start, again, this is according to Danny Davis. This 3-game start is UT defense's best start since it also allowed 19 points to begin the 1983 season. I was 1 year old.
41 years since they've only given up 19 in the first 3 games.
Thank you for calling my age out there. I appreciate
41. That. Well, they can do the math. 1983.
No, I love it. So, So again, a lot to be excited about as a Texas fan. A lot. They're practicing what they preach, and we're starting to see all the things that the staff has been talking about, what they've been working on, what this team has been aiming towards, mm-hmm. really starting to come into play. So I think that's a pretty great thing. Anything else on the defense that you want to point out before we dive into a few other things?
Yeah. So Horn Sport says we're talking about the first 3 weeks of the season, right? Yep. For the first 3 weeks, Texas is top 10 nationally, defensively, scoring defense, opponents' yards per play, total defense, third down defense, and opponent passer rating. Texas defense is top 20 in all of those nationally. And then offense, points per game, yards per play, third down offense, passing yards per game, team passer rating, yards per attempt. All of those on offense. So Texas has a top 20 team in multiple stats. So when people say Texas is overrated, Texas and that, Texas is the top in a lot of categories, and they're competing at a very high level. We're only 3 weeks in. But as of now,
when you've got to
compare it to the last 20 years, like you just showed, huge improvement.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that. So we do know that one of the things the team wants to focus on is more pressure, more sacks, more turnovers. Mm-hmm. We want to see Tex caliber the sword, the turnover sword.
It's looking pretty good.
I love Excalibur, but we want to see that thing full every game, right? So that's something that they're hammering on. But, you know, you've got to say the defensive staff is really, really developing this team. Johnny Nason,
Nancy,
to PK, excited about the hard, fast, physical attacking, fun defense. So again, I'm not going to linger too long on this, but that last word, fun.
They're having fun.
They're having fun playing a game again. And you know, they put in the hard work. They've gotten to where they are, and you see it. It's coming second nature again. This isn't a overthinking the plays. This isn't a shit. Am I where I'm supposed to be? Oh crap! I was at a God. We just gave up a big play. Right? It's a man. We're having fun. We're laying the wood on some people. We are shutting them down. We've only allowed 19 points in the first 3 games. Football's fun again. Who knew? Who knew?
Yeah. So just like Sark always harks on the offense, he doesn't want them to just know how to do the play. He wants them to know why they're doing it. He said the same thing about defense today. He said they know the defensive players know what calls to expect, but they also know why PK is calling it and what they're building up to. And then PK also likes to surprise them with some good play calling and keep them on their toes. And that's what's really, he said, that's why they become so elite at like third down defense and so efficient, because they know what's happening and why they're doing it.
Yeah.
So the whole team, offense and defense, has a strategy and they understand the big plan. So that's why they've been so successful.
Love it. I love it. All right. Well, so again, recapping it, Texas really puts the schlacking on Jeff Traylor's UTSA Roadrunners as they came into Austin, into DKR.
Yep.
DKR is Texas's house. There's zero question about that. It is a loud, proud, exciting place to play football.
Yes.
Way to go, fans. Way to show up.
What
way
a
to be
wonderful
loud.
environment. Who could possibly complain about the environment of game day?
Well, you know, fans will find a way, apparently. But do want to shout out to the fans that are there. You know, come early, be loud, stay late, wear orange. That's Mac Brown would be proud of what Texas fans are doing. But yeah, I want to say something I was excited about.
What were you excited about?
I'm in the north end zone, you know, and all last season we had these incredible drone shows that I didn't get to see a second of.
I saw them.
I know you did, but they were up behind, you know, back north end zone. So I don't know if this is going to continue. But let me say, as a north end zone dweller, as a longtime season ticket holder there, man, I was so excited to see that drone show pop up over the east side.
It was really good. So it was the turning helmet head,
and then the hook 'em horns,
and they did the flaming, the longhorn on fire, which the pyrotechnics, apparently it's like really rare to get that.
Yeah, it is super, super cool. So of course we saw the drone show, but you know, as it goes, there's going to be folks fussing.
Let's talk about this segment that we used to do before when we were on the podcast all the time, and then we're bringing it back.
Yeah,
the tweets, X's, posts, whatever at CDC. The things CDC, Crystal Conte, the athletic director at Texas, is beyond gracious and beyond kind and beyond inclusive and appreciative of every Longhorn supporter, to the point where people feel they can message him about anything,
which is a mark of a good AD.
It is good, but at some point, think twice before. He is so busy. He is so busy, and he takes the time to respond to some of these tweets. So in the past, Megan, we've talked about people who've complained about the color of the orange at shirts in the store, about the ice on the Dr. Pepper, like the things that people have complained about before are so trivial and not way below his pay grade, right? So let's talk about the things that people complained about this week to CDC. One of them was the flyover.
Yeah.
2 people complained about the flyover to him, and he's like, "Sorry, don't control the airspace."
Well, let's be clear. They're complaining about where the flyover was, right? It literally hasn't changed.
It went from the south end zone over the north end zone, like it's done every flyover for a million years.
That's my thing. Like
every flyover, we look here and it ends here.
It's literally
always
straight over the stadium.
Always. And he's like, because of the location of our stadium, the FAA only allows us to do the show. Oh,
that's for the drone show.
Yeah. The flyover, what did he say to them?
He said, "I hear you, but we don't dictate flight plans."
Flight plans. They want, yeah.
Man, again, shout out to CDC. Of course, we've had a few people fussing about the song choice and things like that. Listen, man, Texas has an elite game day experience. And while I think it is fair to have your own opinion, can we just leave CDC alone for just a minute? Just a minute. Like, let the man enjoy what he has built. It's crazy to me.
Somebody
It's
said
crazy.
about the music, literally anything but the garbage we have now. And he's like, sorry, you don't enjoy the experience. We're working on it. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's all right. Again, DKR then and DKR now, totally different game day
We
experience.
have one of the best game day experiences in the country.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So really exciting. So, all right, y'all. So talking about game day experience, talking about authentic Texas experiences.
Yes.
I want to give a big shout out and a high 5-star recommendation. If you guys are looking for a place to stay, be it for Texas game day, be it for F1, if you're in town for that, MotoGP, any concerts, anything like that, anytime you want to spend time in Austin or in Central Texas, there is a wonderful place you guys have to check out. It is called Rockin' Diamond S Ranch. It's located in the beautiful Texas Hill Country, 120 acres, amazing ranch. My Longhorns live out there. They love it every day. It is in Blanco, so you are just 5 minutes away from downtown Blanco, and it's pretty close to Austin. Easy drive in, or if you want to visit San Antonio, it's really great there. This is, again, an authentic Texas experience. There are 3 houses on this property that you can rent out. Sleeps up to 14 people. There's a pool in the backyard. You can cook indoors, outdoors. I mean, it's just a really beautiful place. So if you guys, again, if you're coming into town and you're looking for a place to rent, looking for a place to stay, you got a group of people, or if you just want a staycation to get away from things for a little bit, please go to rockindiamondsranch.com, or you can call 512-694-1969. Ask for Chuck. Tell him that Fire the Cannon sent you. He'll take really good care of you and get you set up for however many people you need to accommodate out in that beautiful hill country, Texas. Authentic experience. So
it's a beautiful land, beautiful home.
It is. So check them out. So big shout out to Chuck. Thank you. And again, you guys get to meet the Longhorns and feed them if you want to too.
Yes.
So it's a good time. All right.
Diamond S Ranch.
Rockin' Diamond S Ranch.
Yep. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yep. All right. So talked about Texas. We're excited. Again, y'all, please join us live on Thursday. Be sure that you have liked and subscribed. Sign up for little alerts. You know when we go live, and you'll see us. But Thursday at 3:00, we will give our picks. We will go through some stuff through Texas. We will look forward to that ULM game. So please tune in for that on Thursday. Right now, we are going to recap college football in week 3.
Yeah, let's give our thoughts about what went down. So I was at the Texas State game.
Yes.
And it was exciting. And Texas State had an opportunity to win against a Power 4 team and fell short, just field goal short. But that's how it goes sometimes. So let's talk about the big games of the last weekend. Friday night, the big game was Kansas State. Arizona, thanks to Texas, beating Michigan, held the consecutive win streak until Friday. That lasted 5 days for them. Kansas State drilled them 31-7.
Yeah. Welcome to the Big 12, Arizona.
And that game, because it was pre-scheduled years ago as out of conference game, it didn't count towards their Big 12 schedule, like their Big 12 ratings or whatever. So that was just for them still an out of conference game. So
right, but
still welcome to the Big 12. 31-7.
A little taste of what's to come.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about Georgia surviving at Kentucky, because the week before, Kentucky got blown out by South Carolina, who we'll talk about in a minute with the LSU game, and then Georgia went into Kentucky and survives in Kentucky. I think this is my feeling. You're going to get everyone's best. Everyone's tough. They won by 1 point on the road at Kentucky, 13-12.
Survive and advance, right?
Survive and advance. You're going to get everyone's best. You're not going to have your best week. But if you crawl out of there with a win, you're a good team.
Yeah. Look, and I want to point out, kudos to you. You have Kentucky on our schedule as a potential trap game for Texas.
Well, we don't know yet. We could blow them out.
We could, but at the beginning of the season,
you were saying Georgia.
That's what I'm saying. I'm giving you credit now because at the beginning of the season, you said, "Look, Kentucky is the one game that Texas should win, but it could be a tough game." So I think you called that out.
Kentucky had a chance to win that and blew it.
Right. So again, for Georgia, survive and advance. We got to say this. This game, in my opinion, played a big role of Texas jumping into that number 1 spot.
Absolutely. Their performance put Texas to the number 1. Absolutely.
So Georgia will be just fine hanging around that top 5. They're number 2 right now. Of course, we'll see how that plays out. They, they're coming into Austin in a few weeks.
They have Bama before that. If they go into Bama and beat Bama, they'll be back at number 1, and they should be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, but yeah, I mean, 13 leaving Kentucky victors, but 13-12, that definitely raises some questions about the Dogs.
Yeah.
Raises some questions.
For sure.
And I think that's something that, again, we'll dive into this with weeks to come, but that's something that Texas can really hone in on. We know Georgia's a great team. Whether they're number 1, whether they're number 5, whatever, they're going to come into Austin loud and proud. They've got a point to prove.
Mm-hmm.
They want to welcome us to the SEC, with a loss is what their goal is going to be. But I think this game really exposed some things for Georgia. And I think that's something Texas can really key in on. But also it's a good preview for 2 teams that Texas plays in our SEC schedule this year. So,
and we know that football's a copycat league, right? So, and with Texas having such a versatile roster, is there something Kentucky did that Texas can
capitalize on?
They can copy. So number 4, Alabama went into Wisconsin. It was game day. It was a Fox Big Noon kickoff, and it was supposed to be all exciting. And then within a few minutes of the game, Wisconsin quarterback goes out with an injury.
Yeah.
That's awful. You never want anybody to go out with an injury.
No.
But from then on, their backup did what he could and got them a field goal. But that was it. 42-10, Alabama. Milroe is legit. Milroe under DeBoer's system, he could. I'm surprised he's not the Heisman front runner right now.
Wow.
Too.
Okay.
Because in a few days, if he handles business with Georgia comes to town, I could see Milroe flying up. He has explosive plays. He uses his feet. He's really exciting. Of course, I'd rather Quinn win it, but if Quinn's on the sideline right now while Milroe is putting up stats,
opportunity
is there.
Ground.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really interesting. Alabama's been a really interesting team to watch. Of course, the GOAT, Nick Saban, taking off, leaving, retiring. There were a lot for me there. I had a lot of questions about DeBoer coming in. It's a different kind of culture down there. Like, I don't care what you say. Football in Washington is different than it is in Alabama, right? It's just going to be different. And so far, it looks like he has taken that mantle and really rolled with it and done a good job. Now, of course, Wisconsin unranked this year, but still a hard place to go in and play well. So we'll see how Alabama plays out. Again, I think we're going to learn a lot about these 2 teams and about where the SEC actually stands when Alabama and Georgia play here in a few weeks. So really, really exciting football. I mean, the score wasn't so exciting, but exciting for Texas looking forward into the SEC.
There was some worry when Saban, announced his retirement, and there was that grace a few days, and then DeBoer was announced as the head coach. Right away, there were so many decommits. The recruiting class looked like it was falling apart. No, there's still a top 5 recruiting class. They still have top recruits from around the country who want to play for him and want to play for Alabama. So they are still on a great trajectory. They're starting their season really well. I can't wait for that Bama-Georgia game.
It is early to say this, but I'm going to say it. This feels like it's got the makings of the handoff from, not quite the same, but the handoff from Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley, where they really didn't skip a beat.
The cake was baked.
Right. Now, again, some differences there. Yeah. Obviously, Lincoln Riley worked with Stoops before. He really got to train under Stoops and then take over. But to me, it's got the feeling of, all right, well, Nick Saban set this up nicely and handed it off, and DeBoer hadn't fumbled that bag yet.
No,
so
that's why, not to sidetrack, but the Michigan handing over to what's his name? Moore. What's his name? The coach of Michigan. Yeah, we talked about him all last week.
I'm the one that mispronounces everybody's name.
Sorry, we talked about him all last week. Anyway, handing that over, I thought it'd be a smoother transition. Anyway, because he was under that system. So real quick, rivalries last week. Oregon spanked Oregon State. Utah spanked Utah State. Colorado spanked Colorado State. All the states got their asses kicked. But Colorado, again, the classiest players won't shake hands with their opponents. A&M with the backup. Is there a quarterback controversy when the backup goes in? Marcel Reed, 178 passes, 3 touchdowns, 83 yards rushing, dual threat, legit can run this offense, goes into a really bad Florida team, but gets the job done for their first road win in 100 years.
Look, just like we were talking about with Ewers and Arch Manning, experience matters. Experience matters, right? And if your skill level is similar, you're always going to take the quarterback that has more experience.
Right.
That's just the smart way to go. I still think Wigman is their guy. I think once he gets healthy, he's their guy. That being said, I think A&M is a better team. From what I've seen, A&M is a better team with Marcel Reed under center than they are with Connor Wigman. But a lot of football to be played, a lot still going on. But you're right. They went into Florida. Now, Florida's garbage.
Florida is bad. They're firing their coach like yesterday.
Right. I really believe this. Like, Florida has entered, Billy Napier has entered, leave him on the tarmac territory.
Mhm.
We saw, of course, Florida teasing us a little bit with the Board of Regents meeting Sunday immediately after, and then no announcements coming out. But, I don't see how Napier escapes this season with performances like that. You don't lose like that to A&M at
33-20.
Right.
So, but the game was worse than the score.
Yeah.
Like, the score looks like they
There was some garbage
salvaged
time.
some points,
Yeah.
but really A&M went in there and had their way with them.
Yeah, no, I agree. So again, I think that's going to be a coaching carousel here soon. I don't see Napier surviving this year with performances like that with Florida, especially given that Florida has high expectations, right, wrong, or indifferent. They consider themselves the school of the state, the flagship school, and
they're down now.
They're down. Yeah. They're down bad. So
they're down. So is Florida State. Like, both of them are down bad.
Right. Anytime, Miami, step up. Where you is?
Miami's
now is
right
your time.
now. Miami's rolling.
Right,
yeah.
right. So, all right. Well, let's look at OU again. We're going to talk rivals a little bit here for Texas rivals. OU survives 34-19 versus Tulane. I had Tulane as an upset in that game.
Yeah.
Credit to OU for pulling through.
And covering.
Yeah, I did not see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that either. I thought they'd win, not cover.
Yeah, still a lot of questions about their quarterback and Jackson Arnold. Is he really the guy? Can he manage the games well? I think there's some questions, and I think there's an opportunity for Texas to get a little bit of revenge for last year. So, yeah, keep an eye on OU. Shout out to Tulane, though, who is quietly having a pretty damn good season for being a small private school. So
next up, we'll talk about this Thursday when we make picks, but they have Tennessee, who's dropping 60
OU
and 70.
has Tennessee.
Yes, OU has Tennessee, who's dropping 60 and 70 points a game and not allowing points per game. So let's see how that plays out. And OU's only one touchdown underdogs at home.
Yeah.
And I know it's really bad because they haven't been that in forever, but I would think Tennessee is going to blow them out by more than one touchdown. So we'll make those picks on Thursday.
We will.
A really good game on Saturday was LSU South Carolina, an SEC game, because 16 LSU had lost to USC. Then they have the other SC. South Carolina came out strong. They took a big lead, 24-10, and then fumbles and interception. And LSU,
they got sloppy.
They got a big old mess. LSU got back in the game, and of course, massive penalties for South Carolina. 13 penalties for 123 yards. They just kept killing themselves. Missed field goal at the end. LSU wins it.
Yeah, look.
There you go.
Again, that was another one I had as an upset. I had South Carolina winning that one.
I think we both did. Yeah.
So, again, credit to LSU, just like we were talking about earlier with Georgia, survive and advance. A win is a win. And, right, the conversation that was had until Texas was here was there's no easy wins in the SEC. There's no easy schedule. So, credit to LSU for going in. I'm still not 100% convinced that LSU is a, number 16 team, but they've got a grind of a schedule as well. So we'll see how that goes on. Real quick, a little Big 12 action. UCF 35, TCU 34. Pretty crazy game. TCU was up 21-7 at the half. UCF with a touchdown with 36 seconds left. And then poor TCU, they miss a 58-yard field goal, which
that's a big field goal.
That's a hell of a field goal
for a college kid. That's a big field
for
goal.
anybody. That's a hell of a field goal. But so that was down to the wire again. TCU losing that by 1 point to UCF in Fort Worth.
Heartbreaker.
I'd say welcome to the Big 12, but UCF looks like they're up to the task. So it's going to be.
You think they have a shot at winning the Big 12?
I don't know.
Utah in there.
I don't know. Utah is still. Listen, the Big 12 is just confounds me at this point. I had Tech perhaps showing up and then McGuired again and isn't using his Micah Hudson. And I don't know. I think UCF has to be in the conversation at this point, but still very early in the season.
All right.
So, All right. One thing you did want to show. Let's talk about
Yeah,
this.
I'm trying to see who they actually.
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit. So Cal, talk about the fan experience and how fans are doing. So Cal fans are a little upset with their team, perhaps.
Yeah,
Cal fans, we love you. Stop throwing the cards on the field. That's 2 15-yard penalties. Please stop throwing the cards on the field.
So apparently the cards were the ones that they put in the stands where you make a picture.
Designs,
Yeah, you make a design.
Yeah.
And, the classy Cal fans were throwing them on the field, so much so that they were getting multiple penalties.
On their
So
own
much
team.
so the the coach went to the ref's mic and is talking off the ref's mic to get his fans to behave. Like
I have seen that happen in football games before, but it is pretty rare to have fans. I'm going to be as kind as I can, to have fans that are so unaware that acting like that affects your team. Like it actually affects your team.
2 15-yard penalties.
You're in reality hurting your team. With
I can't even find the game, so I don't even know who they were playing or if they won or how much it affected. I just thought that clip was amazing.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Anyway.
So, all right. And one last thing I do want to say.
Yes.
Listen, Bo Nix, did you see this coming off of a loss? Now we are transitioning into the NFL,
Yeah.
right? But Bo Nix, bless his heart, he's had a rough go with his.
He's with the Steelers.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Play this. This is our transition to the NFL.
Bo, can you take us through the interception in the end zone?
Drop back, threw it to the other team.
All right, Bronco.
Listen, I love that. You got to respect questions like, look, I get
Can we hear it again? It's too good. Let's hear it one more time.
Bo, can you take us through the interception in the end zone?
Drop back, threw it to the other team.
Is he wrong?
So what happened was,
I mean, look, does it need much more explanation? I respect the shit out of that.
I love it.
I love it. Because look, I get that the reporter had to ask the question, but that's kind of like, hey, you had a terrible performance. Walk us through why you were terrible.
So
all right.
I missed every tackle.
He's just like, look, I
went to tackle him.
threw it
and
to
I
the wrong
missed.
guy. I love it. I'm here for that kind of honesty. I really am. So, yeah. All right. So getting into the NFL, we know that our teams perhaps didn't perform so well. Me as a Detroit Lion, although I will say my Texans stepped up.
Yeah, the Texans won. We
stepped up.
were watching that last night, cheering for the Texans.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good win.
So, but interesting moment in that for Texas fans.
Yes,
You should get
Longhorn
get up and
fans.
set. Yeah. Rojo, our boy Rojo got punched.
And he said, and he tweeted that it took a lot for him not to
did.
throw back.
Watch what happens in the scrum here. Alshire gets up and a punch straight into the face of Rashawn.
Now let me
A punch straight to his face, and no flag, no nothing.
say. Well, it resulted in a flag eventually, right? But let me say this: I have never understood. I ride motorcycles. I wear and I ride street bikes. So my helmets have always been full face sport bike helmets, right? Full helmets. I have never understood why somebody thinks that they are going to take a swing at somebody wearing a helmet meant to protect your head when it's heavy objects smashing against each other. It's designed to protect your
You're
head
gonna
in
hurt
those
your
moments.
hand more than anything.
So you want to take a swing? What are you doing, man? Like you're just gonna break your hand at
and
that
with
point.
100 cameras on you.
I
and
just
everything.
don't.
Yeah.
I get being upset. I get, and he was surrounded, so this is fight or flight, right? I get it.
Yeah.
But our boy Rojo was just standing there, man. He wasn't doing
He
anything.
was like, ooh.
and credit to him
Yes.
for not retaliating.
99% of the people on the planet would have started throwing down.
And that's what would have been caught.
Yes.
Right? So,
And that's how that culture, that's how smart and sharp and together Roshan is, because he's still young in the NFL. So for him to, keep that composure, getting punched right in the face, in the helmet, and turning his helmet like that. Oh man.
So things definitely got choppy in that game, but Texans came out on top. winning that game 19-13. The Bears looked good. Towards the end, though, it became kind of a turnover fest where it was back and forth, and Texans would drive and then give up the ball. And then Chicago would try to figure something out and then have an interception.
Yeah,
So,
that was a fun game. We watched that last night.
gotta love
Not
it.
a fun game for the Cowboys, but great for the New Orleans Saints and our friend Yolanda, whose son Jalen Ford is with the Saints. He's still injured, but he's going to be back soon. The Saints, butt whooping.
Yeah.
And you mentioned this. It was like a college score, 44-19
That's rough.
to the Cowboys. So Dak, 2 interceptions, 3 sacks, but he did move the ball for almost 300 yards to a bunch of different receivers. But I think the difference was Dallas could not run the ball. They were held to 69 yards rushing, and New Orleans had almost 500 yards of offense. So, and a stifling defense. So they're just a complete team. New Orleans looks so good. Do
you have New Orleans as a contender this year?
I didn't, but I'm going to be, I cheer for New Orleans. So I'm all in. Like I'll jump on that train. My freaking Titans let Aaron Rodgers play football again. That sucked. And your Lions lost to
the Bucks. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it.
Not just the Bucks.
I know. Baker Mayfield. We don't have to talk about it.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, I got it. You were missing.
What's worse? My Titans lost at home to Aaron Rodgers. At least he's a douchebag, but at least he's a quarterback. And your team lost to Baker Mayfield, who's a douchebag and kind of sort of a quarterback.
But he's not 500 years old.
I know, but mine's smart at least.
I guess. Your Titans played in a way that you were missing the Aggie.
Oh, my Titans were so bad. Will Levis, our quarterback, was so bad. I was missing Tannehill.
All right. Yeah.
That's really bad.
So rough output for our teams there. Again, Jets beating the Titans 24-17, Bucks beating the Lions 20-16. Niners, a little bit surprising here. Niners losing to the Vikings. Vikings up 23-17 with Purdy sacked 6 times. 1 lost fumble and 1 interception. So
yeah, the Vikings might have found a little way to stifle that 49ers because man, they pressured Purdy so bad he was terrible.
Right.
That was not Purdy's best game.
Yeah,
it didn't look pretty. Raiders shocked the Ravens. They win. Gardner Minshew. Every time I say the name Gardner Minshew, I'm like, he's an NFL quarterback. It seems like Gardner Minshew is the name of the guy that like hacks your computer, like unlocks your cell phone for you. Hey, ask Gardner Minshew to unlock your cell phone. He's a techie guy. Like when I hear that name, I don't think
magic.
I think like he's the one who like backs up your hard drive. I don't think of him as being somebody that's an NFL quarterback. The name Gardner Minshew.
That is a very specific.
It is. He's my tech bro, like Gardner Minshew. But no, he's an NFL quarterback who went into Baltimore and beat them, even though he got sacked 5 times. And Vegas only rushed for 27 yards. You would think going into Baltimore and only rushing for 27 yards and your quarterback getting sacked 5 times,
you would call that a win.
Game.
Yeah.
If I told you those 2 things, you wouldn't think you won that game. They won, but that's because the Ravens are so undisciplined. They had too many penalties.
Yeah.
Anyway,
crazy.
Carolina benching Bryce Young.
Yeah.
0-2. I feel bad for our 2 young Longhorns.
Sanders.
Brooks and Sanders, who are with the Panthers, because they're so bad.
The Panthers are not great.
They're
that is
so
true.
bad. They lost 47-10 in New Orleans and 26-3 to the Los Angeles Chargers. That's not even competitive.
Yeah.
So
that's the truth. All right. Well, as we were recording, Atlanta Falcons are taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. So Dirty Birds and the Eagles going at it. So we'll see how that comes out.
Do you go like that?
I will never do an Eagles thing.
They do. No, the Dirty Birds. I don't know.
Oh, the dance?
I mean,
you should do that more.
I mean,
we're on video now.
I know. Go Bijan Robinson. Oh, so when I was in Atlanta, I had a layover last week coming back from Michigan.
Yeah.
I have to tell you something really cool. There were so many people around the airport. It's Sunday, so everybody's wearing NFL jerseys.
Yeah.
I saw so many Bijan Robinson jerseys.
They're not playing him for shit.
I know, but they're abusively not using him.
Malpractice.
Football
malpractice.
We should sue Megan. No, I saw so many Bijan jerseys throughout the Atlanta airport
That's
that I thought
awesome.
was really cool.
That's awesome.
They love him there.
You love to see it. All right. So real quick, we'll go through a couple top stories. Want to give a big shout out to Occupy Left Field, Mark. As you know, you got to love them out in left field. They keep things rowdy. They keep things exciting at Texas baseball. Occupy welcomed new head coach Jim Schlossnagle to Matt's El Rancho, your favorite place to eat. And Coach Schloss came out.
Did I make a face?
Yeah, you did. Coach Schloss came out and it was really great. I mean, this is what you love to see when we talk about Texas being family. You know, it's cool to see a big fan base, a big fan group reach out to the head coach and say, how can we support your program? And the coach go, hell yeah, let me meet up with you, have some drinks, have some food. Let's talk about it.
Awesome.
Again, you don't see that many places. And
Good job, Mark, getting shot. I mean, shoot your shot. And you can.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. Another Texas baseball note, Ace Boogie, our guy Ace Whitehead, recovering from surgery and is starting his rehab, was throwing today. So really excited to see Ace recovering well from that shoulder surgery. Again, excited to see him on the bump to finish out his senior year with Texas. So keep it up, Ace. We're excited to see you get back out there and rehab healthily, safely, slowly. But we'll see you back on the bump for this season.
All right. The Tupac,
Yeah.
the Pac-12, which has been the Tupac. They are now the Pac-6.
Yeah.
They
six-pack.
will be the six-pack soon. They have Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, and Fresno State lined up to join the
All the
Pac-12.
states.
All the states. So not the main school, just the directional state schools will be joining the Pac-12. Which will make them the six-pack. They're going to go from two-pack to six-pack. I mean, that's kind of cool.
I've got to say, that sounds like a scrappy little league that's getting together, like a scrappy little conference. That'll be some fun football to watch. It might not
Boise
be.
State, yes. They have probably the best running back in the country right now. Colorado State has nothing
I'm
right
just
now.
saying. I'm not
San
saying
Diego
it's going to
State,
be.
maybe basketball. Aren't they good in basketball?
I'm not
I
going to
don't know.
say it's going to be good football. I'm saying it's going to be fun football. There's a difference.
I mean,
I think that's gonna be
I'll
fun
watch
football to
it.
watch.
I'll watch San Diego State play Fresno State at 12 p.m.
All
I mean,
right.
12 a.m.
Well, you were just talking about traveling through, when you came through from Detroit, you laid over in Atlanta. If you have flown to Austin, it is not always the most fun experience going through the airport, but some good news coming up for ABIA.
Eventually. Yeah.
Eventually.
The
down the road.
construction will be.
Yeah. Well, construction's always a mess, but
Yeah.
it looks like the Austin airport is actually expanding. We're going to have a terminal B. So right now there's the North Terminal and the South Terminal, but the main terminal is going to get a second terminal. So I know it's ridiculous for us to talk about, but Austin's big, man. And it's a kind of a nightmare to get through ABIA.
The biggest issue with Austin Airport is actually pulling up to the airport. We've seen, especially after ACL weekend or F1 weekend or all these big weekends in Austin, people literally abandon their vehicles and walk with their luggage trying to get up to the airport
Right.
because it's such a cluster mess on the busiest days.
Yeah.
Pulling up because there's one circle in. Everybody knows there's one circle in, one circle out. But what they're doing now is they're supposed to have some massive new arrivals area where with the airlines will have check-in and check-out, and then the terminal we have now, the main one, there will be a new terminal B behind it.
That's cool.
They said they're going to add up to 54 gates, $800-something million.
Yeah.
My concern is the construction. I hope they have a plan to keep people moving
I'm
through.
sure could it be any worse
Do
than
they
it is
ever
now?
have a plan at this airport? I don't feel they do. Our airport's really cool because it's only Austin local stuff, which I love. I
Right.
love that it's only Austin local businesses, restaurant shops. I love that. I love that it's very Austin, and there's artwork
It's
and
just
there's
too small.
music, but it's too freaking small. And they keep moving the security. We'll talk about that another time. But they keep moving. TSA's here. No clear is here. No pre-check is there. No, you got to go.
Yeah.
They keep moving it.
So that is an $865 million terminal expansion. So close to $1 billion
And
going
the
into
cost
the
of
airport.
it is going to be added to the airlines, and the airlines are just going to charge us more
Yeah,
fees.
that's probably
The
the truth.
flying out of Austin is going to cost us more.
Yeah. All right. Well, one last announcement for UT Austin. This was a pretty big one that I feel
This
kind of
was
like
huge.
snuck under the radar here.
Yeah.
UT Austin admissions is now just announced today that they will no longer be accepting top 6%. They're dropping it to the top 5%.
It used to be 10, then 7, then 6,
and let me
now
say this.
5.
I had family that worked very closely on this, and ever since the top 10 rule went into effect with the Texas legislature, it has been an absolute nightmare for the flagship school, for Texas especially. A&M's seen some issues. Now, A&M's solution to this was like, F it, let everybody in. And their classes swelled. They had at one
They have
point
like 70,000.
75,000 on campus.
That's too many kids. You can't get a quality education. with
It's
that
a
many
degree
kids.
factory at that point.
Yeah.
Texas, UT Austin did a lot to avoid that, but has been working with the legislature to say, look, we can't manage, because they were filling their classes to capacity, 110, 112% capacity just with those top 10, then top 7 percentages, then top 6. So, and they still want to get a mix of other people in too, right? You can't just fill everybody with people from Texas. You've got to have that diversity. You've got to have international students, students from around the country as well. So yeah, UT Austin just announcing top 5%. Now I will say this, I am proud of my UT degree. I bust my ass, and UT's hard. UT's a hard school. It was a hard school when I was there. It was a hard school when you were there. Top 5%, man. That's some elite stuff. That's crazy. So if you're a student at UT, man, you know that you are the best of the best. That is, again, top public school. A lot to be proud of as a Longhorn. That the academics are insane. Football is back. Athletics leading the nation. Gotta love it. So, hey, as always, we've been through some tough times, but y'all, we're coming through it. It's a good time to be a Longhorn. Coming through it. We're coming out of it. So it's a great time to be a Longhorn. So again, sport that burnt orange, get your horns up high, be proud about it. So
yeah, that's tough. Could you get in now?
I don't know. I'll tell you, when I was the president of the Texas Exes Austin chapter, and we covered a pretty big area and we offered scholarships, and reading through those scholarship applications, if you ever want to feel dumb, like I don't think I'm a dumb person, but if you want to feel dumb, read through some of what those kids are doing and the kids that are applying. It is absolutely impressive what they're doing, what they're accomplishing, both academically and extracurricular. It's insane. I don't see how they have the time, but
I don't know.
Hey, what starts here changes the world. That's how it is.
All right. One last thing. ESPN's way too early draft boards. They have Mel Kiper, Jordan Reed, Matt Miller, and they asked them, what players should we be watching for? Who's under the radar? Who's projecting high? Mel Kiper, Quinn stood out the most in the first 3 weeks. Of course, now there's uncertainty with his injury.
Sure.
Jordan Reed said people aren't talking enough about Jade and Andrew Makuba. That's who we mentioned earlier, flying up draft boards. Matt Miller says Isaiah Bond, speed and acceleration, possibly a round 1 grade. And he has him right now, number 23 on his board. So Isaiah Bond getting huge way too early NFL draft board love. So is Quinn. Jade and Makuba could find themselves in the top 4 or 5 rounds. That would be amazing.
Look, if things work out, it looks to be a really smart move that Quinn stayed. Again, we know last year was a heavy quarterback draft, right? And Quinn staying, this is a pretty light quarterback projected draft so far. So if things work out well, Quinn's injury plays out well where he heals up quick and gets back in and gets some reps and gets some time.
Yes.
Yeah, it could be a really good thing, which, again, you got to love it. Longhorns in the NFL.
Woo.
Not a bad time to wear that burnt orange. So,
all
right, y'all. So as always, we really appreciate you. Be sure that you like and subscribe. Follow us on our new channel on YouTube. Of course, you're here, you're watching it. It is Fire the Cannon Podcast. Follow us on Instagram and on Twitter or X, Fire the Cannon 1. And we appreciate you. Again, like and subscribe. We'll be back on Thursday live. We'll answer your questions. So bring them to us. Let us know what you want to hear about. Let us know what you want to talk about. And until then, we'll see you. So I'm Megan.
I'm Rocky.
And we are Fire the Cannon.